love to hear about the moon goddess.
Again?
Tell me, Mama.
A beautiful woman and a handsome man were in love. But she accidentally took a magic potion and floated away, leaving her true love behind.
Over the Moon is a 2020 animated family fantasy film with lots of wonderful music that's directed by Glen Keane, the noted animator, whose credits also include Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin and the Little Mermaid. The film is produced by Netflix Animation as well as the Pearl Studio in Shanghai and Sony Imageworks. It's interesting that Pearl is becoming quite a powerhouse for animation in the Far East, producing films that have a great East-West connection, most notably Abominable quite recently, which took $30 million in its opening weekend, although there are many Hollywood productions that would like to take $30 million in their entire theatrical run. That said, Over the Moon is a wonderful family film. It's beautifully animated with a compelling story, great characterization, wonderful music too. There's some absolute standout songs like Fly Away and Ultra Illuminary. It's a tremendous fantasy film based on the Chinese myth of Chang'e, the moon goddess, and her husband Hu Yi, in a wonderful film that's been retold in a script by Audrey Wells, who sadly passed away during production. The story centres around the Chinese Moon Festival and the moon goddess Chang'e, who 4,000 years ago accidentally took a secret potion that made her immortal. She was forced to fly to the heavens and leave her husband Hu Yi, the mythical archer. She's taken up residence on the moon for the last 4,000 years along with the Jade Rabbit, and is an important part of Chinese mythology and an important part of the Moon Festival, celebrated every autumn.
Oh, poor lady, that goddess. So lonely up there on the moon, dreaming of her one true love.
Holy the archer! Show!
Jin! Ah! It's just a silly myth.
It's not a silly myth. It's real. She's on the moon right now, waiting for her true love. Right, Papa?
Fei Fei is a young girl who lives with her family in a small rural Chinese village where they're bakers specialising in making traditional mooncakes. Her mother tells her the story of the moon goddess. She falls in love with the character, wanting to believe that she's out there, still waiting to be reunited with the love of her life. Sadly, her mother passes away and she's left on her own with her father, trying to cope with their grief. 4 years later and everything changes. Her father, who's been feeling rather lonely, has met someone new, and it seems that Fei Fei could have a new mother and a new brother, a troublesome 8-year-old who thinks he's got a superpower and can run through walls. At a family dinner for the Moon Festival, they're talking about the moon goddess, laughing. It's almost as if they don't believe anymore. Fei Fei's really upset by this. She's determined to somehow fly to the moon and prove that the moon goddess really exists, to reignite her father's belief and maintain the memory of her late mother. In her spare time, she works on a science project to create the ultimate flying machine to take her and her pet rabbit Bungie to the moon to meet the moon goddess. Secretly, her stepbrother sneaks on board, and together they fly to the moon, and this incredibly warm, charming story really moves into overdrive. Steeped in Chinese culture and mythology, Over the Moon is an Eastern story, but it's totally engrossing for a Western audience. It's written and presented in a way that really opens up and pulls you into the story. At its heart, the theme is about loss and recovering from that loss and being able to move forward. It's about families coming together and uniting, accepting that the loved ones that they've had in the past have moved on, but that they can move on too, without losing sight of the fact that the love that they have for those who have gone is still there, still as strong, and will be there forever. The quality of the animation is second to none, and the attention to detail of the Chinese village, the culture, the architecture, the little details like a tiny teapot, to the moon festival, the mooncakes that are created, the shape, the colour, the patterns that are on the cakes. You can tell this is a Chinese film and they want to portray their character and their culture in a positive and accurate way. They're introducing you to the way of life that you'll find in most Chinese towns and villages around the time of the Moon Festival. And it's absolutely perfectly presented. You are really part of it. You're there, you feel engrossed, you're invited into their home as a welcome guest. That really comes across in the presentation and style of the animation.
Come on, she's expecting you. She's nothing like Mama said she'd be.
I announce a competition. Anyone who helps me bring my one true love back will get their wish granted.
The film uses an incredibly diverse colour palette. The earthly scenes are a little bit pastel, a little bit subdued, nice use of light and shadow. But when they get to the moon, the colour absolutely explodes. The rich diversity of colours and imagination, it's an explosion of colour onto the screen. And this is the moon goddess's home. This is where she lives. This is kind of the whole of the mythology coming to life. But behind that, there's a dark side too. The dark side of the moon, if you will, which is where the moon goddess will go when she's feeling particularly low and she's at her most desperate and wanting to be with her long-lost husband. The soundtrack feels instantly recognisable. You're tapping your toes the minute you hear the song. It's as if you've known them all your life. They're essential to the telling of the story. Fei Fei's Fly Away, for example, is her thinking about how is she going to make it to the moon to meet the moon goddess. Ultra Illuminary, when the moon goddess presents herself and we first see her, and the huge diversity of colour, the richness and intensity of her personality absolutely come through.
This mission's about to get bumpy.
We're not going to make it!
Don't be such a chicken!
What's really interesting is the film has been dubbed into something like 31 languages. And there's a video of the song Fly Away on YouTube that you can go and see, where each line of the song is presented in a different language that the film has been dubbed into. And you might think this is a weird thing, but you're stepping through all of the languages. It's a beautiful bit of editing, but what it shows is the song really works in just about every language. Every line, even though it's in a different language, flows beautifully from beginning to end, which shows I think this is an absolute classic song, beautifully written, well crafted, and exceptionally well sung in whatever language you happen to be listening.
We're gonna prove she's real. I have a superpower.
No barriers!
Over the Moon is an exceptionally good family film. It's a celebration of the Chinese Moon Festival. It's a celebration of the moon goddess myth and the myth of her husband Hu Yi. But it's also a very strong message about hope and the future of people and families coming together and moving forward in the face of adversity. All in all, a wonderful film, heartwarming, uplifting, and absolutely well worth a view. It'd be great to know what you think, so do leave some comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to our channel and don't forget to hit that little bell icon to get a notification every time we release a new video. Thanks for watching, see you next time.